name is Lisa Gretzky, and I am the MPP for Windsor West. We are here today to speak about the importance of my private member's bill, Dan's Law, which will amend the Home Care and Community Service Act and close gaps in home and community care. This bill was named after Dan Duma, a gentleman who personally, along with his family, experienced the issues my bill aims to address today. Dan's Law has the support of the Ontario Medical Association, the Ontario Nurses Association, Hospice Palliative Care Ontario, Home Care Ontario, and CUPE Ontario that represents thousands of healthcare workers. With me today is Dr. Darren Cargill, the palliative care lead for the Erie St. Clair Regional Cancer Program, and Dan Duma's palliative care doctor. Also with me are Anna Duma on the end, who is Dan Duma's wife, and Laura Duma, the daughter of Dan Duma, and she will share Dan's story and that of what her family experienced during a very difficult time for them all. And I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. Today I will debate my private member's bill, the Home Care and Community Service Amendment Act, or Dan's Law, for short, which is the short name, which addresses a gap in home and community care for Canadians that repatriate or return to or move to Ontario for the first time. Under current law and the Interprovincial Billing Agreement, residents of any Canadian province or territory that move to Ontario must apply for provincial health care coverage in Ontario, or as we know it, OHIP, and complete a 3-month waiting period before health care that is not deemed medically necessary is covered. This means they can access physician and in-hospital care, but do not qualify for home or community care. The Liberal government has recognized the value of and encouraged the use of home and community care, especially for those in need of end-of-life care. The government has also recognized the importance of providing people the opportunity to live the final moments of their life at home or in hospice with dignity, surrounded by their friends and loved ones. Dan's Law will eliminate the 3-month waiting period for access to home and community care for Canadians from other provinces and territories that move or repatriate, or as I said, return home to Ontario to spend their final moments with dignity and comfort in their home. Canadians believe that universal health care means that no matter what province or territory within our great country you move to or from, your health care needs will not only be met, but immediately covered by a public health care plan. We know that this is not the case. Ontario has the opportunity to set the example for other provinces to pass Dan's Law and move towards truly universal health care. I'd like to now turn the mic over to Laura Duma to speak to the experience of her father, Dan, and that of her families in Dan's final days. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Lisa. My parents, our family, lived in Windsor for 18 years. My father worked at GM for the last few years that he did live in Windsor. When the GM plant closed, he was forced to look for work elsewhere as he couldn't find any in the Windsor area. And they moved to Fort McMurray, Alberta, where he began working in the oil sands. About a year and a half into them living there, he was diagnosed with cancer, liver cancer. And, began their journey of hospital visits back and forth to Edmonton, surgeries, different things like that for his treatment. This past year, in April, he was diagnosed with metastatic liver cancer, and he had some complications, and he was hospitalized in Fort McMurray, where at the same time, the Fort McMurray fires happened. He was evacuated from Fort McMurray to Edmonton, where he remained in the hospital for a period of time, and then because no one was allowed to return back to Fort McMurray, he really didn't have much of a choice, and they were living in Edmonton in a hotel. The doctors at that time gave him a few weeks to live, so he was given the choice of living out the remainder of his final weeks in a hotel in Edmonton, far from his family in Ontario, or to come back home, the place he had called home and hoped to return to had he lived longer. So he did just that. He came home. And from the beginning, we spoke about how he wished to spend his final days, and he made it clear that he had hoped to pass away at home. That was a choice that we tried to respect for as long as we could. What we didn't really foresee was the difficulty of trying to arrange home care services for him. We thought, here's a man who doesn't have a lot of time left to live, who's going through a lot, who's suffering, and we couldn't really get any sympathy for that. And we couldn't bypass the fact that you have to wait 3 months to get palliative or any home care services, if you will. So we were about a month into the waiting period, and my father passed away. We kept him at home as long as we could. My mother and my sister and I did the best that we could, but in the end it was quite heavy, and we ended up going to hospice. The care we got was wonderful there, but I know that it would have been nice to honor my father's choice to pass away at home. So with this bill, we really hope that we can give other families that option and to honor the choices of their loved ones when that time comes for them.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. Cargill now to talk about his experiences as a palliative care doctor.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Lisa Gretzky and her office for all the tremendous work that they have done on this bill. I would like to offer my sincere condolences and appreciation to Anna and Laura Duma, who are here today in support of the bill that bears Dan's name. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the help and support I've received from the Ontario Medical Association in bringing this bill to second reading. As a physician, it is not only my job to treat patients, we are also stewards of the healthcare system. When we see a situation like Dan Duma's, a patient being denied medically necessary care, it is our responsibility to raise the issue and advocate for change. Currently, people who move to Ontario, whether from another province or abroad, are required to wait 3 months for OHIP coverage. Those previously insured in other provinces are able to receive medically necessary care in Ontario, but not home care. Like many Canadians, Dan Duma was required to move across the province, seeking work in our current economic climate. While living and working in Alberta, Dan was given a terminal diagnosis. Given the news, Dan decided to return home to be with his family. When faced with a life-threatening illness, most Canadians choose to return to be home with friends and family. As well, most Canadians, given the choice, would like to receive this care at home. Unfortunately, when Dan returned home, he found that the care he needed was not available to him. Dan's law seeks to remove the unnecessary 3-month waiting period that prevented a terminally ill man from receiving the care that he not only required, but deserved. Furthermore, Dan's law seeks to prevent any further patients in Ontario from being excluded from the care they need. At this time, there are many deficiencies in our healthcare system, especially when it comes to palliative and end-of-life care. But this is one problem that can be easily fixed, and I urge all MPPs today to support this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cargill. And I think that between Laura and Dr. Cargill, they have very nicely summed up the issues that many people in the province of Ontario are facing. Many people have been, due to job loss, have moved out of province, and when they are facing end-of-life care, would like to come back home and be with their loved ones in their final days. And with that being said, I certainly hope that we are going to have support of all parties in the House, that it will go to committee, will be debated in committee, and come back and become law very quickly, because we don't want to have any more families go through what Dan Duma and his family have gone through. The sooner we can make this legislation pass, the better. And with that being said, I'll take any questions at this time. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.